of times people say they know how to recover and they know what to do to recover, and then they're still sore for days, which is still possible with a good recovery. But we're going to talk about a little bit more on foam rolling as a recovery method. Stretching is great, but doing foam rolling to have that pressure that will just release the knots and the tension that you've created over time is huge. I am using a foam roller by Trigger Point. This is not my favorite foam roller. I would prefer to have a 36-inch, so one that's a little bit longer and one that is solid. This has teeth on it, which is usually more advanced, and it usually causes like more intense foam rolling when you're using it. So when I foam roll, I usually try to use the part that's a little bit flatter on my foam roll, just because it doesn't hurt as bad. I'm gonna go through a whole bunch of different exercises. I'm gonna start from the lower body and work my way up. I'll talk you through it, different muscles that we're targeting, how we're targeting them. So if you guys wanna follow along, you can. We're also gonna post this on YouTube after. But the nice thing about foam rolling is you can do it anytime. You can do it before your workout, during your workout, after your workout. The ideal time to do it is before your workout because you can really foam roll the parts of the body that you're gonna work on. So if I'm gonna work legs, I usually foam roll just my lower body to really loosen up my muscles to get ready for the strength training or workout that I'm gonna do. But sometimes I don't have time, so I'll just do it in my room or my living room at night, and I just like, oh, this part of my body is just feeling really tight today, so I will foam roll that specific part of my body. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to touch on before we dive deep into it. As we go through this, you're gonna find that some muscles are a little bit tighter than others. So you might wanna spend a little bit more time on it. It's gonna be, maybe you realize that like that's something you need to work on too in the future. So you're gonna foam roll that part of your body a little bit more. Foam rolling is so important. Like, even people think about their squat form. Like if certain muscles are too tight and there's knots in, it limits your range of motion, it limits your performance. So foam rolling is a good way to help that. I'm gonna get started though working towards the calves. That's usually where I start. Some people do the feet. If you wanna do the feet, I suggest using like a lacrosse ball, something a little bit smaller, and then either you can sit on your bottom and roll on the lacrosse ball, or you can take a seat in a chair so you can apply a little bit more pressure, but all up to you. So with my foam roller, I'm gonna place it about mid-calf between my ankles and my knees, and I'm gonna put it in the mid-calf because as I roll forward and back, I don't have to push myself as far away. If you start with it here, or even near your knees, then you have to pull all the way back there. So start with it mid-calf. You'll pick your hips up, and you can just roll back and forth. For any roll that I do, I typically roll like 5 to 8 times, moving at my own pace here. You can even turn your feet towards each other or away from each other to get different parts of your calf. Maybe you want to make it more intense. I don't do it on my foam roller because it's a little too intense, but you can cross a foot over and go forward and back. So you're applying pressure down onto your leg as well as foam rolling, but that's completely up to you. If I had a different foam roller without all of the teeth and ridges on it, I probably would do it that way. But you can turn your feet in or out still. If you find a tender spot, maybe you hold there. So if I found a tender spot, right there's a good tender spot. Maybe I hold, maybe I rock side to side slowly. Just loosening what you have. You also want to do this on more of a firm surface. Right now I'm doing it on turf, which I wouldn't suggest. I would probably do it on like a harder rubber. Even doing it on carpet, makes it not as intense and it also can make it harder to roll because now you're dealing with the friction of the floor as well. We're gonna go on to the next one though. So I'm gonna move the foam roller up to my hamstrings. So I'm gonna start with the foam roller about mid-thigh. So again, like in the middle between my knees and the bottom of my butt. I call it the thut, between the butt and the thigh, the thut. But you can roll all the way up to your thut, and then all the way to just above that knee joint, forward and back. This one again, you can turn your toes in and turn your toes out. The hamstring is actually a bicep, so there's two heads that we'll be able to target here. Again, we're gonna do about 5 rolls. You can turn your feet out. If my foam roller was longer, it would be a little bit easier to use the space that I have. You can cross one foot over the other if you want to make it a little bit more intense. Rolling forward and back. A lot of times people have some pretty tight hamstrings. And then you can cross the other one over. Rolling it out again. So when I roll, again, I usually just roll the part of my body that I will be working that day. But today I'm going to go through a full body. Usually with F45 workouts, we tend to work the whole body. So doing the whole body is no problem, and this is probably really good, especially because this week we've kind of leveled up our workouts, if I do say so myself. So having this opportunity to really dive deep is good. We're going to go into the next one is our IT band. So your IT band is actually fascia. It's on the side of your leg, and a lot of times people have a really hard time targeting this part of their body and finding a way to stretch it. There's ways that you can stretch it, but when it gets tight, it gets really tight and it affects so many different parts of your body. It's very, very painful. So by foam rolling it and taking the time to foam roll it is very important. So you're gonna sit on, mine is a little bit shorter, maybe you have a short one like me. I'm gonna roll over onto my left side, so I'm gonna cross my right leg over and roll over onto my left side. I usually start with it on my hip bone because it's a little less intense than rolling directly over onto your IT band. I'm probably gonna roll off the camera a little bit here, but you can slowly roll and guide yourself forward and back. This one is a little more aggressive, a little more intense. You're probably going to be in a lot of pain, and you're probably thinking like, holy crap, this is awful, but it's good. You're also going to find like a bunch of little bumps and ridges maybe. Those are all a bunch of little knots, and if you want to sit or maybe roll back and forth on one, or maybe you just hold it there for a second, as painful as it may be, it's going to release that knot. And then when you think you've released it, you can roll a little bit further and further. Try not to lean forward too much because then you're gonna end up rolling out your quad and you won't stay on that IT band. Let's do about one more roll here. A lot of times people, if they have tight hips or run a lot, or they can feel tightness in their IT band. So this is really good for rolling it out. All right, let's roll over onto the other side. I think that was enough pain for one side. So we're gonna start with it again on one butt cheek, cross a foot over. My shoe's untied, but that's okay. And I usually start on that hip just to start again, and then you can roll back and forth. Stay sideways. As soon as you roll forward, you'll be on your quad. Just before a workout, you can loosen. I mean, both are great. The ideal time is before to loosen the muscles. All those knots that are in there, you can break up. Since instead of making the muscles contract during your workout to make the muscles bigger, you're starting by loosening them. Also remember to breathe. A lot of people tend to hold their breath when they're in pain. Breathe. I promise it will help. All right, finish this roll that you're on, and we're going to roll over to our quads. I'm going to tie my shoe really quick. So with our quads, you're going to roll all the way up to your hip and then down to just above your knees. So you don't want to roll on that kneecap, it will hurt, and then your hip bones. If you have a longer one, you will be looking much better than me. So I usually start with it on my hips, and then you can either pull yourself forward on your elbows or your hands back and forth. If you want to make it a little bit more intense, you can pick one foot up and move over to the side of your foam roller. So you have the one leg working. Quads again, you can always turn your toes outward, and you can work the inside of that quad into a couple more of your ligaments. After you've done a couple on one leg, if you're only doing one, you can switch over to the other side, rolling back and forth. Feel free to make this your own. It's whatever your body needs. Maybe you find like a really tight lump or bump, kind of like mountain-like bump that you're going over. You can hold there for a little bit, try to relax it, breathe through it, and then continue along your rolling. There's so many different ones. I'm sticking with a lot of the basic ones for today, just because foam rolling, you can get pretty intense with the movements that you do. Next, we're going to do our adductors, and this one might feel a little more intense than others. So I'm going to lay on my stomach. You can start on your stomach if you want, and then put a leg onto your foam roller. So to the side, I'm making almost like a 4 with my body. And you can roll side to side. I usually start with just the lower half of my leg and then the upper half of my leg. You'll push out and in. This usually tends to be a little bit more of a tender spot. It can be quite painful. This is really, really good for knee pain. A lot of people will complain about knee pain and not do anything about it, but by doing this, you can help relieve some of that pain that you're going through. Try to manage it a little bit more. Right here, usually the bottom of the leg, there's a little bit more of that teardrop. There's also a method called flossing. So just right here, I'm picking up my foot and putting it down. So rather than moving my body side to side, I'm picking my foot up to loosen that muscle right there. And maybe you lift it a few times and then you move down a little bit and lift it up a few more times in another spot. It can be pretty intense. Slide it up a little bit further now, and we're going to get our groin. So we just got more of our quad of our adductors, and now we're going to get our groin. So roll back and forth, like up close to your groin area, and then mid quad, back and forth. Try to relax as much as you can. And then we're going to switch over to the other side. Your adductors might be pretty tight, depending on how much you squat or if you're working your glutes. All right, I'm going to switch over to the other side. Again, just about 5 to 8 on when you roll. So this doesn't have to be a long process. It's a little bit longer right now because I'm talking and explaining things. So I'm starting with the lower part of my leg, rolling back and forth. So I just do a short distance. It's kind of awkward to do the whole leg at once, and it requires more upper body. Plus, this is already intense as it is, so I'd rather keep more of my body stable on the ground if I can. When you're ready, you can switch into that flossing technique. I'm actually going to roll mine because those teeth are pretty intense on this very sensitive muscle. Lifting that foot up and down. So this is more towards those quads. Your VML, which is your vastus medialis ligament, this really targets that, and this is the one that's going to help with that knee pain too. All right, you can roll a little bit closer to your groin and roll it out up there. A second ago, I was cut off on that side, and I'm going to be cut off on this side if I keep rolling. So as we're working our way up, our next one's going to be our glutes. People usually have very tight glutes, and when your glutes are tight, it tends to affect more than just your glutes and your hamstrings. It also can affect up into your back. So with the glutes, we're really going to take our time with this one. I want to be able to target deep into the piriformis. So take a seat onto your foam roller, and you're going to cross right, well, I'll do it facing you guys. Left leg over right, and your left hand will be down, and you're going to lean to that side. It's going to be a little bit more painful, so I usually tend to turn my foam roller away from the teeth. So left hand, left leg are up, and you're leaning over to that side to really get deep. Your piriformis is a deep muscle below your glutes, and it runs from the head of your femur, that bone in the upper part of your leg, and it connects to your pelvis. So it's very deep, and when it gets tight, it usually is what causes all that back pain, the lower lumbar back pain. From that lower spine to the femur head. If you do a lot of squats, your exercises to grow your glute muscles, this would be really, really tight on you. Or running. You're going to go just above the glute to just like where that foot is, the butt and thigh where they connect. All right, go ahead and switch legs. So now you're just going to shift your hips over. You'll keep your right hand planted with your right leg over your left. And you're going to lean over to your right side. So right leg, right glute, right hand, leaning to the right. Everything goes right. I usually just rest my hand on my foot. And you're going to roll it out. Take your time here. This is sometimes a very tough muscle to try and target. It's not just the glutes, but that piriformis so deep in there. When you finish up this side with your rolls, we're going to go into the back. And I tend to roll out my back a little bit different than some people. You'll find all different things on the internet when you're looking, and this is what I found works best for me to prevent lower back pain. So let's go ahead and move into that one. I'm going to place the foam roller. I usually don't do this one very often just because I don't want to cause lower back pain. I never just lay over it. I always have my hands behind me supporting to prevent that hyperextension of the low back. But you can pick your hips up and go to about mid-back and then to just above that tailbone. But I always have my hands behind me supporting. This is an easy area to develop low back pain or pain in your back. So just to prevent it, I try my best to provide as much support while still massaging as I can. All right, I'm going to go into that upper back. So I usually start from about like sports bra line, and then I go all the way up to my shoulders. So I lean back. My back is very, very sore right now. But I lean back, and so it's just about my sports bra line right now. And I go up. You can either have your arms above your ears, and hold opposite elbows, which is what I typically do, because then I can get a little bit into my delts and my shoulders. Pick my hips up and roll back and forth. Try not to go below that sports bra line. So the idea of this is not to crack your back. Your back might crack, but the idea is really just to apply some pressure. If you feel a very tender spot, you can always hold there for a second. applying that pressure. You can relax the top of your head in between those arms because they're crossed. Ooh, definitely have some tender spots. Ooh. All right, so that's the back. You can also lean as you're there. You can lean side to side to target a little bit more into your lats. So we're going to go into lats next, but if you lean side to side while you're doing your upper back, you might be able to target a few different muscles. If you go up higher, you might also get into that front delt a little bit. You can even get into it on your back, which is pretty impressive. All right, the next one's very painful. I'm going to give you a little warning now. It is amazing, though. You feel amazing after. So for this one, I lay on my side. We're going to target our lats, and I put my arm out, and I put that foam roller underneath my lat. You can just hang out here and apply pressure. Some people roll back and forth, but this is already very intense for me. So I tend just to hang out here. When your lats are tight, it affects so much, especially overhead things. Whenever you're lifting a weight overhead, it will be a little bit harder to even get your arms up. Or sometimes we try and put our hands together with straight arms over our head, and it's difficult to do that if you have tight lats. Maybe you want to lean back just a little bit to intensify it, or maybe you lean forward. Maybe you pick it up and move the foam roller into a different spot. If your hand's falling asleep, that's not good. That's not what we're going for. So adjust the foam roller to a different spot. It's still going to target those lats. It's still going to be painful. When your lats are tight, it can also get into the chest and cause chest pain, a little bit of back pain in there. It's not only going to affect your shoulders and your shoulder mobility, it's everything's connected, everything works together. Maybe you lean forward a little bit, and then we're going to switch over to the other side. So we have the lats, and then we have one more after this, which will be our chest. So we'll roll over to the other side. I have no idea what time it is. I wasn't sure if this was going to be 20 minutes, half hour, or longer, but making good time. So place that foam roller again onto your lats. So your lats are on the side of your body. Lean forward, lean back. Again, if your hand's falling asleep, readjust. It's not a good feeling when it falls asleep. And you don't have to spend a lot of time doing this before your workouts or after your workouts or even during your workouts or at night before you're going to bed or watching TV. I try to keep my foam roller, I either keep it by my bed or I keep it downstairs. So when I'm just hanging out and relaxing at night, I'll grab my foam roller and roll out whatever seems to be bothering me. Really helps me loosen up and stay mobile. And this is a great time with everything going on in the world to try and, there's a lot going on already and there's a lot that's in your routine, but this would be a great thing to add to your routine. It only takes a couple minutes. Like right now it's taking us a lot longer, but it's because I'm talking through it a little bit. But it can take you just about 5 minutes. If it's your lower body that you're working or your upper body, whatever it is, you can get through it pretty quick. All right, I can't do it as well with my short roller. If you have a long foam roller, this will work great for you. The reason why I suggest a 36-inch foam roller is for this exact reason, this particular stretch. We're going to lay on it and have the foam roller down our spine, and we're going to open up our chest. When your hips are on the ground, it's going to cause more of that lower back pain. So I'll show you really quick, but when I do it, if I do this one at home, I typically put like a pillow or something under, and you want to have your head and your neck supported. So I open up my arms. Right now I'm just going to do a glute bridge, so I won't be as relaxed, but I make sure my head and neck is supported, and I open up my chest. And maybe you're not feeling it much, but if you hold this for about 3 to 5 minutes, maybe even 15, you can hold this one for a long time relaxing. Of course, you want something supporting your low back as well. right now I'm just doing a glute bridge for the time being. But this can get pretty intense and really feel that opening. Maybe you bend your arms to a cactus pose, 90-degree your elbows. I know my flexibility in my chest isn't quite there to even touch the ground. Maybe with your arms straight, you can't touch the ground. Maybe it feels better if your arms are closer to your ears in a Y position. This is your foam rolling, so really do what your body's asking for. But this one tends to be a really great chest opener. A lot of things that we do in life are forward and down. Cellular devices are forward and down. Computers are forward and down. Eating is forward and down. There's so many things. So to be able to just lay here and relax and work on opening our chest, this is going to help us with our posture and so many other things too. A lot of times too, I'm going to come out of it just because I don't have a larger foam roller, but you can stay right there as long as you want. A lot of times people who do a lot of chest presses, which or bench pressing, usually comes from, like you see males have sometimes more rounded shoulders because all they do is this. They really need to work on this chest opening exercise. So sometimes even before chest day, I'll lay and open up my chest just because I know it's so good for me. I'm working my chest and I want to strengthen my body, but I also want to maintain good posture. And I want to keep my chest open and as mobile as I can. Be able to do like a lat pull down behind me. I want to be able to do that movement. And if I'm so close forward, it's going to be hard to pull anything behind my head if I ever need to. So that's foam rolling in a nutshell. There's so many other things you can do with foam rolling. If you guys want to learn more, I highly suggest like looking online. Make sure you're looking from an accredited site if you're going to look online. I can always answer any questions that you guys may have, but I hope you guys can incorporate foam rolling into your routine a little bit more because there are so many benefits and you guys will start to feel the benefits already. Like I know just from that short little bit of foam rolling that we did, I feel so much better. But feel free to ask questions. You guys can send us any questions that you guys might have. But I appreciate you guys joining and have a good rest of your Saturday. It is gorgeous outside. This will be posted on YouTube later. Bye, guys.